Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. What we have today is something else that came out of that Saturday morning unboxing, hot on the heels of Godzilla King of the Monsters. We have this. We have the McFarlane Toys, McFarlane Collector's Edition, DC Multiverse Superman from Action Comics #1. And there's something that I realized after I did that unboxing. I had mentioned that fans were a little upset because in the promotional photos, Superman was a lighter blue, and he had blue boots instead of red boots, and was designed more after what he looked like inside the comic, rather than what he was on the cover of Action Comics. And I said, look at this, he actually is more like what's on the cover. However, something that I didn't notice as I was making that video when I pulled it out of the box, this is a McFarlane Platinum Edition. This is a chase figure. I didn't realize I had received one. I've never received a McFarlane Platinum Edition just randomly before. I've always had to go chase them, no pun intended. You know how sometimes big bad toy stores, you can just order the Platinum Editions. So apparently there's two versions of this. So this is the Platinum Edition with the darker blue, the red boots, and even the S symbol is a little different than what we saw on the promotional shots. So I'm guessing what you see on the promotional shots is more what you see when you get the figure. And I know there's going to be a lot of fans that are upset about that because I feel like this is the version they wanted from Action Comics #1. Especially being like the cover of it. But the standard version is what he is inside the comic, which also leads me to, I'm probably going to get another version of this because I do kind of dig how the standard release figure is what he is inside the book, and this is the cover of the book. So there's that. I apologize. I didn't realize that when I did the unboxing, that this was a Platinum Edition. Some of you may have seen it and were pointing at it and screaming, going, Mac, you idiot, look. But here we go. This is what it is. And part of me was like, do I really want to open this now? But I am an opener. I probably will keep the packaging. I probably will put him back in the packaging after we get him out and take a look at him. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But onto the packaging, that this is the #1 figure. You can see right there for the McFarlane Collector's Edition. The only question I have about the Collector's Edition is it going to be just the Multiverse? Because that's all we've seen so far is the first 3 figures. We have Superman, we have Alan Scott Green Lantern, we have the Edgelord that I can't remember what his name is, that I was kind of surprised that they chose that dude. I can't remember, but like all 3 of them from the first wave of the Collector's Edition are Multiverse figures. So I wonder if it's just going to be Multiverse or if there's going to be other figures that they release in this Collector's Edition. Like, are there going to be Collector's Edition Spawn figures? Are there going to be Collector's Edition Mortal Kombat figures, if he's even still doing Mortal Kombat anymore? Collector's Edition Witcher. Who knows? But I'm curious to see where this line goes. We have a play on the standard McFarlane packaging, sort of like a variant boxing, that it is still basically your Multiverse packaging, where it's just black cardboard, open window, the figure does most of the talking. The only difference is being that we have the McFarlane Collector's Edition down the side here. You can also see some silver. That is silver, it's just reflecting red off of my mat. But you can see we also have like the silver reflective metallic #1 right here. McFarlane Collector's Edition, Superman Action Comics #1. The back is fantastic. The back is basically a reprint of Action Comics #1 cover right here, which is really cool. This is also going to be the collector's card on the inside over here. Really the same thing as the Multiverse packaging, just has this silver, bling going on. Up top, more window. On the bottom, barcode, legal stuff. So there we have it. like I said, packaging, not much different, but it is enough that it stands out. I also like that it has started a new numbering order, that these for like inbox collectors, completionists, this isn't part of the standard Multiverse line. I appreciate that. So, without further ado, let's cut this really fancy box open and let's take a look at McFarlane Toys, McFarlane Collector's Edition, DC Multiverse, Superman, Action Comics #1, Platinum Edition. That's a mouthful. So before we take Clark entirely out of his packaging, I did want to do this little mid-range visual for you, that I've snipped all of the plastic ties, all of the little plastic bands that hold McFarlane figures in, including the card stand over here. And he still stays solid in the plastic tray. So if you are somebody that likes to keep things in the box, we will be able to pop everything back into the box and just store it that way, display it that way. Also, I don't know if this is a effect of the Platinum Edition or not, but he comes with 2 figure stands. You can see inside that he has the standard black figure stand, and he has a flight stand. And you can see that the flight stand has the DC logo tampoed on it, and I don't know, well, let's just pull this out. I think we can pull this out. Yeah. And then here, you can see that the DC logo is tampoed on the standard stand in silver. So I don't know if that's something that is a byproduct of it being the collector's edition, that you get the 2 separate stands, or if that's something else you get with the Platinum Edition. I think it would be really cool if this is just how the collector's edition is sent to us. 2 stands, the standard one and the flight stand. Also, it looks like the background, the tray, has different... I've never paid attention to the comics that are in the tray, but it looks like in this, there's a lot of like Golden Age comic covers in here, which is also very cool considering what this is based off of. Oh, but then we also have the Death of Superman up here. So maybe it's just like the hit list, a lot of highlights going on. I'm going to be leaving these stands in here because I do think I am going to be putting this back in the packaging once this video is over. And I probably am going to be picking up another Action Comics #1 figure just to have the standard version. Okay, here he is out of the box, and putting the tape measure to him, we can see that Clark is roughly 7 1/4 inches tall to the top of his pompadour. So let's just get this out of the way, that yes, this is on the infected body. And as I said in my last Superman video, which was Superman versus Doomsday, I don't have infected Superman. I think this might be the first figure I have with the infected body. And this is definitely not the same as the Hush Superman like I originally thought it did. I have to admit, this isn't the best body sculpt, not just for Superman, but in general. It has really weird proportions up here in the torso. The legs seem a little small for this torso, as does these arms, and also he seems a little bow-legged as well. So this would definitely not have been my first choice for this version of Superman. Which brings me to another issue that I have with calling this Collector's Edition. If you're going to bill something as Collector's Edition, and if you remember on Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it now, they were advertising this as by collectors for collectors, and they reused the same body that a lot of collectors really don't like. If you're going to do something that is called the Collector's Edition, and you're going to upcharge it, you're going to charge the $30 premium fee rather than the standard $25 fee, I really feel like you should come out with something new for that figure, a new body sculpt, one unique to this figure, this moment in history, comic history that you're trying to capture, rather than just slapping a fresh coat of paint on something that already exists. That's just me. I would love to know what you all think about that, because I do think that's very much a cheat. Now, having said that, I do think the colors on this are fantastic. I love the blue that they use for the majority of the suit. I like the red, the yellow, the gold all standing out. Dig the red boots down here. I also, on the back, we have the standard like molded cape, no yellow shield, but I don't think in Action Comics #1 he had the shield on the back. I'm not 100% certain about that. I've never actually read Action Comics #1, shocking, I know, but I've seen clips of the interior, seen some panels, especially in videos that have been made about it, Casually Comics, and I don't remember if he originally had the yellow shield on back. This symbol, I do know, is not the standard symbol that he had inside the interior. I'm not entirely sure that this version should have this symbol. Because if you look at... Let's just bring the card in now for a real quick comparison. If you look at the card, which is based off of the cover, you can see that, like, the yellow indents in the shield, or the indents in the shield are colored in yellow, so it sort of makes more of a triangle. I've seen this version of the S shield before. I just don't think it was from Action Comics #1. So even considering this is a platinum edition, this is a variant, I don't think this is right. Now, the head sculpt, however, I don't hate it. Yeah, he's squinting, but this is very much how comics were drawn in the Golden Age, with that squinty look where the eyes were basically just like beady and black. So I don't hate that. That very much is a product of the time that this version of Superman would have come out. I do like how he kind of has like that little smirk, a little bit of a smile on there. And I really like just the sculpt of the face, that lantern jaw, that very powerful looking jaw. I like the sort of like laugh lines here in his cheeks. I think this is really good. I know a lot of people probably won't like this, and this version, this sculpt very much is a your mileage may vary, but I think this fits this version of Superman very well. Other than that, if you have the infected Superman, you're pretty much going to know what you're going to get. Also, is it just me, or does the head look a little too large for the body? I don't know. Or maybe it's just because the neck is so thick. I don't know. There's just something that, like, the head looks a little too large for the body. Also, the hands that he comes with. He has this open gripping hand, which isn't bad. I think it's proportioned very well. I think it fits very well. But then he has this big clubbing fist over here, and the fist looks too large for the figure as well. Like, even if you compare it to the other hand, he has two different sized hands. Come on, man. Like, if you're going to do this, if you're going to label something collector's edition, expect to be called out whenever something like this happens. Because this is just lazy. This is just they plucked two hand molds from previous figures or previous Supermans and packaged it in with this one. Like I said, this all should have been brand new, not just a brand new face sculpt, maybe a brand new cape. As a matter of fact, I even think this cape we've seen before. Not 100% certain on that. So enough with that. Or maybe not. Let's look around a little bit more, because he does have the cuffs right here, which I don't believe he should have had. It should have just been straight sleeves. Like, this is that you do get a little harsher when you're critiquing a figure like this. And I just feel like this is a bit of a fail as far as calling it a collector's edition. The colors I really dig. I said that in the unboxing. I really like the blues. I really like the reds. I think the colors stand out. I think the colors pop. I think he looks really good. I do. I really do. Like, the coloring, I feel, is like very appropriate to Superman. Now let's take a look at the articulation. The head will do a full 360 spin. He can kind of look up. Once again, it's a shame he can't look all the way up for flying. He can look down. He has some real good head rock side to side. Arms will do a full 360 spin. He has a butterfly joint in here that is very stiff, and it is really stiff on his left side. As a matter of fact, when I pulled him out of the packaging and I was playing with the butterfly joint, I ended up pulling the arm out of the socket. He has a bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows. Swivel hinge swivel wrists that they'll pivot, They'll rock up and down, and then you can do this, you can do that, and they'll come in and out. He has this ab cut in here that lets him do a full 360 spin. He can lean back, he can lean forward, a little bit of rock side to side, ball joint at the waist that once again, he can do a full 360 spin. The ball joint will rock way back, so using them in tandem, he can really crank back, and the ball joint will allow him to rock forward, so using the ab cut and the ball joint in tandem, he can rock forward a little bit more, and he has some really good side to side. The legs will come up to there. Whoop. They go back, not a great amount, and they come up to there, not fully to 90, and he does have that hidden thigh cut in there that doesn't really work very well. Lets you turn his leg in more than it lets you turn his leg out. Double jointed knees, a little chonky, so it doesn't fold all the way up, but you still get some really great travel right there. No boot cut, ankles rock back, ankles rock forward, forward facing pin for some rocker, forward facing pin, and then toe articulation, and then something else. Once again, collector's edition. Look at these pegs. This one is sunken in a little bit too much. This one is popped out and shifting. See what I mean? Like, the pegs are just hideous on here as well. And while I'm not one to normally bag on pegs on a figure, because truthfully, pegless, pegged, I don't really care. But when you're doing something like this, come on, man. Like, the infected body was part of, like, some of the first stuff that he came out with 3 years ago. It's time to retire this. Action Comics #1 Superman doesn't come with any other hands, just the ones that he comes with out of the box. And the only real accessory that he comes with is this chain effect that it's not connected, and you can wrap it around him like so. It doesn't stay on very well. It doesn't have a very tight grip. It sort of just sits there so that, like, it doesn't even really, like, come up around his chest very well, which is where it's supposed to be. It will fall. You kind of have to bend his elbows a little so it looks like that he's busting out like that. Also, because it's not connected or it doesn't click together, it doesn't get a very solid hold. But you can either put it on him like that, like Superman chained, or Superman unbound. You could pose him like he's just snapping the links. So I get it. This is a very cool effect. This is a very unique effect. This is something that happens in the final pages of Action Comics #1. So I do appreciate that they included this, but I feel like it could have been implemented better. This is a very, very soft... Look, stand up, Clark. Stand up. Lay down. This is a very soft piece of plastic. It's very rubbery, that it's not going to hold shape. It's not going to hold form very well. See, you even have right here where the links are open, almost like it maybe should have been able to clip together. Oh, maybe you can. Let's see. Can it hold together a little? Oh, wrong one. So it can. I don't know how well that's going to... Nope. Because then it comes apart immediately. It would be nice if that would have been intended to do that, and all three of them maybe could have linked together. There you go. You can get it. You can get it a little bit. That actually helps a lot. I just don't know how long that soft rubber is going to be able to hold that pose. Now keep in mind, you've already seen the figure stands at the beginning of the video, and I am not pulling them out of the box because I am going to box this back up and store it that way. But we do get our collector's card, which I think this is very cool. This is a representation. This is a reprint of the cover of Action Comics #1, one of his most iconic and most homaged images from his history. We have the McFarlane Collector's Edition in the silver lettering down the side. The cardstock feels like it's a heavier cardstock than what we typically get from the Multiverse figures. And then on the back, we have more of this silver, this metallic silver right here, the high reflection silver. And we have a bio. Go ahead and pause and read that. But in addition to this card, we also get, and we've seen this before, we've seen these card stands that are starting to come out with a lot of his numbered collectible figures like this, special variants, things like that, that the card can slide right in there, and then you can display the card next to the figure whenever you put it on the shelf, which I do dig this card display. I think this is a very nice touch. I really like this, and I do like how it's pretty much just classic, very classy. Black with a silver DC logo. Didn't overdo it, didn't try to oversell it. I think this is a very nice touch. This is it for what we get for accessories. Like I said, no additional hands. The chain is what it is. This is very cool. And now for size comparison, here he is beside a couple of other McFarlane Toys Supermen. Here is Superman from the Superman vs. Doomsday 2-pack, and here is Superman from Action Comics 1000. And I have to admit, this is still going to be my favorite Superman. So much to the point that I canceled my Hush Superman pre-order after opening this one and comparing the two, because I thought I was going to get the Hush Superman and it was going to replace this one, but after looking at this one and comparing the body sculpts, the size, the proportions, just the look of him, this is still going to be my favorite. Now, something that's interesting is that while this is the infected torso, the legs of these two, they share legs right here, and you can see across them, all three of them share trunks, share these like diaper pieces right here. It's just that with this one, the Action Comics #1, they didn't paint the red buckles on the trunks like they did with the other two. So other than the face sculpt, and I keep harping on this, I know, but other than the face sculpt, this figure is complete reuse. Here he is beside McFarlane Toys, DC Multiverse, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday. Here he is beside Mattel Masterverse 40th Anniversary He-Man and Masters of the Universe movie Skeletor. Here he is beside Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series Stalker and Cobra Trooper. Here he is beside Lanyard Toys City Hunter Predator and Xenomorph Drone, because I'm pretty sure at some point he's fought both of them. And finally, here he is beside NECA Toys Dungeons & Dragons, Warduke, and Grimsword. So I know I kept on harping on this through the entire video, but I'm going to say it one more time. You cannot call something a collector's edition figure. You cannot advertise something as by collectors for collectors. You cannot upcharge something by $5 and use the body of a figure that is over 3 years old at this point, especially when it's the body of a figure that the majority, I'm going to guess, does not like. Using a body that is 3 years or more older brings up a lot of issues, not the least of which is having the same issues that you had 3 years ago when this figure first came out. One thing I didn't talk about through the video is it was very hard standing this guy up on his own because of the ankle detents, because of how weak the ankles are, because of how off balance the figure is, especially with that big chunky plastic cape putting him off balance. He kept falling over backwards. You have to get a little creative with the foot placement. Also, like I said, those butterfly joints are very stiff, so much to the point that one of the arms popped off when I was just trying to articulate it out of the box. I do think that neck is way too thick for this version of Superman. I think the torso is just very ill-defined. It's just bulky. There's not a whole lot of definition there. There's no abs. There's no real muscle. It's just big and bulky. The thing that stings is that I really do appreciate the idea of bringing out a figure based off of Action Comics #1. Action Comics #1 changed the landscape. There's no denying that. There's no arguing that. Superman is still around. Action Comics #1 was very important to the industry, and I think it's only fair, it's only right that it be celebrated by the company that has the license to create the figures for that line. So while I do really appreciate and I'm really excited that that McFarlane Toys came out with this figure, there's so much more that could have been done to make this a big win. Also, I don't know how I feel about this Platinum Edition thing. I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky that I got a Platinum Edition. I didn't even know this existed. I don't even know if the majority of the fan base knew that there was going to be a Platinum variant of this, that there was going to be a Chase variant. Because I feel like when you're talking about Action Comics #1, this is the figure the majority of fans wanted, not the figure that is the representation of what's inside the book. And I do stand by that the figure we've seen promotional shots for, the figure that probably a lot of other people have gotten, is based off of what is inside the comic book, and that's cool, but I feel like this version is the one that people would have wanted. I still don't get why it has the different S shield on it. I'm going to have to go back and look at Action Comics and see if that S shield was in the first issue the way that it is on this figure and not the way that it is on the standard figure. Including 2 stands is also very cool too, by the way. Could have used additional hands, could have had a pair of clenched fists, could have had a pair of open hands, or could have had a pair of clenched fists and could have had a pair of flight hands. I don't know. This only getting 2 hands with Superman would be fine if they were matched. They should either both be fists or they should both be flying hands. I don't like this one open, one fist, especially when the fist looks way too big for the figure. I love the color. I do really like the face sculpt. I really like the face sculpt on this. As I said during the video before, I don't know if a lot of people are going to like that, if a lot of people are going to like a face sculpt based off of the Golden Age of comics, because that was very much a style. But I like the tight smile that he has. I like the black hair that he has. I like the squinty-eyed look that he has, because that very much was how the character was drawn in his early days, in his first days. As much as this was being lauded as, you know, the collector's edition for collectors, by collectors, as we've been saying throughout this video, I feel like this figure specifically, maybe not this line, but this figure specifically is a mileage may vary. Because I feel like there's going to be people like me who think this is very cool, who thinks Action Comics #1 needs to be celebrated, no matter, you know, like, and while I'm upset about the body, I'm upset about the lack of accessories, I'm upset about a lot of little things about this figure, it wasn't enough to shy me away from buying it. But then I also feel like there's going to be a set of the fan base that is like, this is just a repaint. And that's really what it is. Like, it is literally really just a repaint. And I do think there is a lot to be said about that. I think that is a very fair criticism. And I think that's going to put a lot of people off to this figure. I also feel like this is why when the pre-orders went out, Action Comics #1, you could still pre-order up until the time that it came out. However, the Golden Age Green Lantern, the Alan Scott Green Lantern pre-orders sold out. I think that tells you a lot about what the fan base feels about this figure versus the Alan Scott figure. I do believe this figure is still available for sale. I'll put a link to it in the bottom in the description, as I always do. And like I said, I'm probably going to be a sucker, and I'm probably going to buy another Action Comics #1 just to get the standard variant of it. Stuff like this, I am legitimately curious to hear what you think about this. Let me know what you think. Is this figure worth it to you? Is this figure doing justice to his first appearance in Action Comics #1? Or do you feel, as I do, that for what this was being advertised for, it should have been a whole new sculpt? It should have been a new buck. Play well, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.